Most people have never seen a Canadian truck stop in the middle of winter. If they had, they would notice something strange. Hundreds of trucks parked in rows, engines running, no one behind the wheel, no cargo being loaded, no drivers walking around. Just trucks idling in the dark while the temperature outside sits at minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And somewhere inside each one of those trucks, a driver is asleep. Not huddled in a sleeping bag, not wearing a winter jacket to bed, not counting down the hours until morning, just sleeping comfortably under a normal blanket in what feels, from the inside, like a warm room. Now, to most people, that sounds almost impossible. At minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, exposed skin begins freezing in minutes. Metal surfaces become dangerous to touch with bare hands, and the air itself feels like it has weight. And yet, Canadian truckers do this every single winter night. How? To understand how Canadian truckers sleep through these nights, you first need to understand what minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit actually feels like. Because most people never have experienced anything even close to it. At that temperature, ordinary winter clothing is just not enough. Exposed skin doesn't just feel cold, it actually begins to freeze. Frostbite can actually set in within minutes of unprotected hands, cheeks, or ears. Metal surfaces, like grabbing a door handle with bare skin, can feel like touching a hot iron in reverse. The cold transfers instantly. Even your breathing changes. Inhaling deeply through your mouth sends air so cold into your lungs that it creates a sharp, uncomfortable sensation with every breath. And it's not just the human body that struggles. Diesel fuel thickens, engine oil loses its ability to flow properly, rubber seals contract, batteries drain faster than normal, and plastic components become brittle. At minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, everything that is designed to work in normal conditions begins to work against itself. This is the world outside the truck. A world that is genuinely hostile to both people and machines. And it makes what happens on the inside of a Canadian sleeper cab even more remarkable. The most important piece of equipment in a Canadian sleeper cab is not the engine, it's not the insulation, it's not the thick curtains or the heavy blankets or the Arctic sleeping bag. It's a small device that most people have never heard of. It's called a bunk heater. Unlike the standard heater that normally relies on the truck engine, a bunk heater operates independently. It burns a small, controlled amount of diesel fuel and converts that directly into heat, sending warm air into the sleeper compartment through a dedicated vent system. The amount of fuel it uses is surprisingly small. A typical bunk heater consumes roughly half a liter of diesel per hour. On a 10-hour night, that's around 5 liters total. For a truck that already carries hundreds of liters in fuel, it's barely noticeable on the gauge. But the effect inside the sleeper is significant. Many drivers simply set it to a comfortable room temperature, warm enough to sleep comfortably without heavy clothing, even when the air is at minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That gap, more than 120 degrees difference between inside and outside, is created and maintained by a device that's roughly the size of a small suitcase. But the bunk heater only works as well as the space around it allows. And that's where the truck itself becomes part of the story. A bunk heater can produce heat, but heat is only useful itself if it stays where it's needed. And that is exactly what modern sleeper cabs are designed to do. From the outside, a sleeper looks like a simple metal box bolted to the back of a truck. But the walls of that box are not just sheet metal. They're built in layers. An outer shell, an insulating core, and an interior lining. It's the same basic principle used in the walls of a well-built house. Compressed into a space, designed to survive the harshest climates in North America. The floor is insulated, the roof is insulated, even the sleeper windows are designed to help reduce heat loss and improve insulation during extreme cold. Manufacturers who sell trucks in Canada and the northern United States included design these systems knowing exactly what conditions they'll face. A sleeper cab that can't hold heat at minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit is a cab that will not sell in northern Canada. But there is one detail inside the truck that surprises most people when they first hear about it: a curtain. It almost sounds too simple, but the effect is significant. By closing that curtain, the driver reduces the space the bunk heater needs to warm from the entire cab to just the sleeping area. That smaller space heats faster, holds temperature more easily, and requires less fuel to maintain. It's the kind of detail that experienced drivers learn quickly and never stop using. The result of all this together, the insulated walls, the double glazed windows, the curtain, the bunk heater, is a sleeping environment that functions almost like a sealed capsule. Outside, the temperature's dangerous. Inside, it's controlled, stable, and warm. And inside that capsule, something unexpected happens. Once that curtain is closed and the bunk heater's running, something shifts. The truck stop outside, the frozen landscape, the minus 50-degree air, all of it becomes background. Something happening on the other side of a wall that no longer feels relevant. Inside the sleeper, the world becomes very small. And for many drivers, that's exactly the point. A modern sleeper is not just a place to sleep, it's actually a living space. A narrow one, but a complete one. On a cold winter night, many drivers spend an hour or two in that space before sleeping, just watching something on a phone or a screen mounted to the wall, eating a meal prepared on a small portable stove, reading, and calling home. Normal evening routines happening inside a truck while the temperature outside is cold enough, as my mother used to say, to freeze the balls off a brass monkey. And when it comes time to sleep, something else surprises most people. Many drivers sleep remarkably well. The bunk heater runs quietly in the background. The engine, if it's left idling, produces a low, constant hum that many drivers describe the same way. It's like a white noise machine, steady enough to block out the other sounds without being disruptive itself. There are no household responsibilities competing for your attention. There are no interruptions. The space is familiar, consistent, and private. Drivers who spend months each year in their sleeper often say the same thing. They sleep better in the truck than they do at home. It sounds strange until you understand what the sleeper has become for them. Not just a place to rest between drives, it's a place that's entirely their own. For most winter nights, the system works exactly as it should. The bunk heater runs, the sleeper stays warm, the driver sleeps, and in the morning, everything continues as normal. But experienced Canadian truck drivers do not rely on everything going as planned. Because at minus 50 degrees, a small problem can become a serious one faster than you expect. A bunk heater can fail. A fuel line can develop an issue that interrupts the heater supply. An electrical fault can shut down a system that was working perfectly an hour earlier. These situations are not common, but they are possible. And up in northern Canada, the nearest help isn't always close. That's why most experienced drivers treat preparation as part of the job. Extra blankets are standard. Many drivers also carry a sleeping bag rated for extreme temperatures, stored somewhere accessible in the sleeper. Not because they expect to need it, but because if they do need it in the middle of a 50-degree night, it's not the time to wish they had packed one. Cold weather clothing stays within reach. Insulated boots, gloves, a jacket that can handle genuine cold rather than ordinary winter temperatures. Drivers also pay attention to early warning signs. If the sleeper begins cooling unexpectedly, most drivers will investigate immediately. Small drop in temperature is easy to manage. Waiting to see if it corrects itself is a risk that experienced drivers rarely take. The preparation is quiet and routine. Most drivers don't think about it as anything special. It's simply what you do when the weather outside's not something you can negotiate with. And then there's one more thing about winter nights in northern Canada that most people never think about. The silence. Most people imagine extreme cold as something loud and violent. Howling wind, blowing snow, a storm pressing against the walls of wherever you're sheltering. But on the coldest nights, it's often the opposite. When temperatures drop to minus 50 degrees, the world outside becomes remarkably still. People stay indoors, traffic disappears from the highways, even wildlife becomes less active during the most extreme cold. Everything just slows down. Drivers who spend winters in northern Canada often describe the same experience. Stepping out of the truck late at night expecting noise and chaos, and instead finding something closer to complete stillness. The snow absorbs sound, fresh snow especially. It acts almost like a natural insulating layer across the landscape, softening and swallowing whatever noise might otherwise travel through the air. Some drivers describe it as peaceful. Others describe it as eerie. Most agree, though, it is unlike anything they've ever experienced. A world that has gone completely quiet. And somewhere in the middle of it, a warm sleeper cab, a running bunk heater, and a driver fast asleep. So now you know what is actually happening inside those trucks. And the next time you pass a truck stop in winter and see those engines running in the dark, you'll know exactly why. If you're a trucker, what is the coldest temperature you've ever spent the night in? And did you leave the engine running? And if you were not a trucker, what's the coldest weather you've ever experienced anywhere in the world? Let me know in the comments. I enjoy reading and hearing your stories. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you want to learn more about life on the road, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you down the road.